I want to welcome everyone to the live stream. As of late, as we travel closer from the Aquarian to the Pisces, we understand that the imagination will start to open a lot more. Things will begin to be a lot more lucid. And when things become more lucid, the dream and the reality begin to merge at that cross point. That cross point is something. It's many names, but I'll give you a number. Let's not really focus on the names. The number 7 has always had a magical representation in any school of occult. Any time in history, the number 7 has always been of a magical essence. But how do we use this? We know that, but how does that play out in real time? As we move closer to the energy of Pisces, we will begin to play out certain mythology. For the average person, this is not really understood, as these sciences are not known in terms of their detail. Let me give you an example of what I mean. We understand in the times of where you had temples that literally were dedicated to certain deities and energies. So everything that was going on in terms of that had to do with the times to worship this deity, the time to make offerings, the time to tap in the best, you can say, their services. You may want to connect with a certain deity, let's just say at 3 p.m. That just may be their magical hour, so on and so forth. The further we go back in time, and we know that the ancient is futuristic, time is one science. When we go back and we analyze, they were in tune with every single detail of that particular priesthood. You may be from the tree of a certain priesthood, right? Because again, everyone didn't worship the same path, because we know that nature has a lot of variability. There's not just one path. You can say there's one creator, there's one omnipresent source, but it has many variations, many hands that extend, as we call the magician's hand, to be able to be versatile and adapt. Because this is what Pisces and just the energy of water, the element of water, allows you to adapt, not just to your physical environment, but to the mental environment, because things will now become. The Aquarius is wind, Pisces is water. So the transitions from wind to water, because we must understand the elemental energies at play. So the further we get into another sign, those elemental forces begin to contrast or interact. Now, depending on the relationship between the elements will determine the actual outcome and why things start to blend, as they call a cusp in astrology language. They call these a cusp, when the pathways or the crossroads start to merge and a special type of energy is produced at these crossroads. This special type of energy, or this magical essence, embodied or symbolized as the number 7, when the crossroads intersect. When the crossroads intersect, the magical essence is produced. We can call this by many names, but again, the ancients just deemed it okay to symbolize it with the number 7. So when you work with numerology, For example, when you start to break down words that break down to the number 7 and you start to study their connections, let's just say you find 10 words, they all break down to the number 7. So obviously these 10 words have some type of correlation at their essence. At the surface, they may seem like various different things, but the deeper you go into the magical essence or the core of these 10 words, you see that they have one common ancestor or one common root. This is how all language is produced. It's all about the roots and their various trees and leaves. It's all from the same source. Now, knowing how the ancients looked at these magical cusp or transitions or elemental energies, again, Aquarius going into Pisces. So we have the element of wind and the element of water. Wind and water, you can say they can either get along or fight. It can go either way. What I mean is this: you can have wind blowing the air, wind blowing the air, wind blowing the water that causes waves. So the wind can cause waves, but it can also be calm. So the wind also assists in, you can say, tornadoes, hurricanes. The wind is involved in it, so this can be potentially destructive, but it can also be a cool breeze on the beach. It really all depends on how they interact. So we have to take this a step further. Now we have to go into the deeper aspects of what does it mean, or what are the qualities of the Aquarius and what are the qualities of the Pisces. We know that Aquarius is a fixed wind sign, so now we have to get into the actual degrees to say, not just a wind sign, but a fixed wind sign. Pisces is not just a water sign, but a mutable water sign. So you have a fixed wind interacting with a mutable water. So these are waters that are ready to expand, lakes and rivers and streams. They are ready to expand. So we have this fixed wind. So the wind is essentially still. It's as if you don't know it's there. So essentially the water is unable to travel. Pisces wants to be expansive with their emotional energy, with their creative energy. But we have Aquarius, which is more fixed. The wind is more still. So the waters are not able to travel. So we see that it's not necessarily going to create a destructive energy, but it's not necessarily creating an energy of motion either. So it's a time of stillness. But the emotional energy still has an urge and desire to expand, even though it may not necessarily reflect that mentally or outwardly. So to wrap it all up, the transition, the transitional times, the cusp, the numerology, all these things are linked to one another. Synchronicity is manifested through these crossroads or these cross paths of energies that interact. So the more we understand the elemental interactions between these energies, we can properly position ourselves to seize the moment. Because if we understand the emotional and the elemental energies, now we know how to interact with these energies. This is science in real time. Science is real time. Is once I have studied the stars, now I know how to interact with my environment. I look towards the stars so I know how to interact with my environment. Once I understand how to interact with my environment, this influences what I think, what I do, how I see things. This influences all of my psychic centers, my clairvoyance, my clairaudience, me being able to send and receive thoughts, because I know based on what I have studied and seen, now I know essentially I have the blueprint as how I'm going to go about this lifestyle. Now that I have the blueprint, that blueprint, the foundation or the cornerstone, can now start to expand and become something that is actually tangible. The intangible becoming the tangible. Antimatter becoming matter once those paths intersect. So that's for today's lesson. I hope you gain valuable insight. Be sure to check out the website. We out.